At first, Emma had no idea what she had taken home from the lake. She speculated that it could maybe be an egg, but then the fish who would have laid it had to be massive, and an animal that big could not possibly be living in the lake without anybody knowing. Emma decided to show it to an expert to try and find out the truth, but the expert is completely shocked when she shows the egg to him. This cannot be true. Emma immediately saw the friendly expression of the marine biologist change when she showed him what she had found in the local lake. They had talked about the find on the phone, but only now that the expert saw it in person did he know what he was dealing with. He immediately starts shouting for other employees to come to his office quickly and see this with their own eyes. Emma is meanwhile still left in the dark, and she is not happy about it. Why won't the expert tell her what she had found in the lake? But the expert quickly typed something into his computer and turned the screen around. On it was a picture of what Emma had brought in, and the description attracted to it shocked Emma. But what had Emma found at the lake, and why did it shock the expert so much? Emma did not often venture out to the lake alone. Mostly, her husband Michael would join her for their weekly stroll around the water, but he was swamped with work. But that was not going to stop Emma. She could actually take her time now as well, which would in turn allow her to spot something strange in the water. It was always very calm and quiet around these parts, and today was no exception. The lake was at least an hour's drive away from the city, and not even popular with fishermen, as there was apparently not that much life in these waters. Or was there? Emma had by now gotten about halfway around the lake, and up until now, the birds had probably gotten most of her attention. They seemed to be surprisingly active and also made many dives in the water, something that she had never seen them do before. It most definitely piqued Emma's interest. It was like they were hunting something. But if there were never any fish in the lake, then what could the birds possibly be aiming for? But it did not take long before Emma would find that out. But it would only raise more questions. Suddenly, out of seemingly nowhere, things started to drift to the surface of the lake. Like the birds may have dislodged something at the bottom of the lake with all their activity. The animals immediately went into a frenzy, and Emma was afraid she would never get a good look at what they were going crazy for. But luck was seemingly on her side, as in all the commotion, something that had come to the surface a little distance away from the birds, and that something was starting to slowly drift to the water's edge. Emma knew that this was her chance. She kept a close eye on the strange object and started running by the side of the lake, trying to get to where it was set to wash ashore. She was just hoping that none of the birds would notice it. But when they were finished with their frenzy, they would quickly turn their attention to the prey that got away. It was a race against the clock, but Emma just managed to get to the washed-up object before the swarm of birds. She did not know what got over her or why this thing was so important to her all of a sudden, but she was about to defend it with her life. Emma stood over it, waving her body around like crazy in an attempt to scare the birds away. And the animals were determined, but nothing compared to Emma. After minutes of battling and scaring away the birds, they finally started to slowly retreat back into the woods. Only then did Emma have a chance to look down and see what the hell it was that she had been protecting. And if she was completely honest, she did not have a clue what she was looking at. She had never seen anything like this before. But seeing as it was at the bottom of the lake and the birds were trying to get to it so desperately, she speculated that it had to be some form of food for them. Could it possibly be some sort of fish egg? It did have the look for it, but what fish could possibly lay an egg this big in a lake? Emma started to wonder if there was something that she did not know about this place. She had come here for years and even went into the water on a couple of occasions. Had she been sharing the water with a very large creature that she had no idea about? The thought sent shivers down her spine, and she immediately tried to forget that possibly again. Even if there was something down in those dark water, she had never encountered it on her swim. Nothing had happened, and nothing was going to happen. But she could not help but feel that her curiosity was piqued by all of this. If whatever she found here was actually a fish egg of some sort, then she should be able to discover what fish it came from. There had to be somebody in the area who knew. But the first person she had to tell about her find was her husband, Michael. She had a Tupperware box with her for her lunch. Emma quickly emptied it and filled the box with water from the lake. She had no idea if this egg needed water to survive, but she did not want to take any risks. It was not at the bottom of the lake for nothing, she figured. Her husband was really surprised when Emma called him about her strange find. He was mainly caught off guard by how much she seemed to care. Why could she not have just left the thing as food for the birds? But Michael had learned a long time ago not to go against his wife in situations like this. If Emma had her mind set on something, it was going to get done, and she would not rest until she was satisfied. And judging by the fact that she protected the egg from birds for minutes on end made it clear to him that this was one of those occasions. He was working at the house when she called, and he implored Emma to just drive home so that they could come up with a plan for what to do with the egg. Emma doubted a little, as she had no idea how long the egg would survive outside the lake. Maybe she needed to be more in a rush here, but she did not have any internet access in this part of the woods, so she could not look up any potential expert, nor could she use Google to figure out what she was dealing with. She had sent a picture to Michael so that he could do some research, but he could not find anything quickly. Emma thus decides it would be best to drive home first and just have peace with the fact that this egg might not survive. She could also leave it at the lake bit, then it would 100% be eaten by the birds and not survive either. This was probably its only chance. Emma was racing home as fast as she could. There was nobody else on the road, and so she could easily go a bit over the speed limit. But getting a ticket in this situation was probably something that Michael would not forgive, and thus she had to hold herself back a little bit. She came home about an hour later, and Emma expected Michael to be waiting outside with bated breath. But she was almost offended when she found out that he was still inside just working on his job. He had not looked any more into the egg after Emma called. Michael tried to explain that he had to get a lot of things done today and that he was on a very tight schedule, but Emma did not want to hear it. She had asked him if he could try and figure out what she had found and otherwise get the number of an expert, but he had done neither of those things. Emma angrily locked herself in the bedroom with her laptop and the egg. Michael was pleading with her to calm down and be reasonable, but Emma did not want to hear it. She wanted nothing to distract her from her quest of finding out what the egg exactly was. After searching online for about half an hour, she still had not learned of Discovered anymore and decided that this was not the best course of action. If she wanted to know the truth, she needed to talk to somebody that actually knew something about this egg. But where was she going to find somebody like that? After soon quick Google searches, Emma found out that there was actually a marine biology department in the city. It was a pretty small scale, so it was no wonder that she had not heard about it before. But if there was any place that could give her answers, it had to be here. When Emma shows the egg to one of the experts at the center, he explains that is actually a moss animal. He has not seen one in years and seems shocked that Emma found it in a lake nearby. It had not been sighted there in forever, and the find was a big discovery. Now the center could start with its conservation efforts surrounding the species.